Week in Review on CJDC. CJDC TV.
Welcome to Week in Review. I'm Hugh Smith, and here are your top Peace Region stories from the past week. The Peace River was filled with canoes and kayaks last Saturday as they united to take a stand against the Site C Dam. Protesters gathered for the annual Paddle for the Peace event, which is an opportunity to enjoy the Peace Valley and speak up against BC Hydro's project. CJDC's Carissa Wilson has more.
Hundreds of people journeyed down the Peace River in solidarity this weekend with one goal in mind: to stop Site C.
It was action-packed, a lot of energy here, and a lot of fight in this crowd.
Advocates from environmental, First Nations, human rights, and more attended the 11th annual Paddle for the Peace event to celebrate the Peace Valley and speak up against BC Hydro's Site C Dam project, which would flood the area.
This project is a boondoggle that'll cost everybody money and at the same time destroy some of the very best agricultural land in British Columbia, and at the same time violate treaty rights.
When this place is going to be flooded, well, we're not going to let that happen.
Protesters say this is an important year to make some noise against the project, as BC Hydro is already taking action to clear the area for construction.
The actions BC Hydro are taking, of trying to force people off their land, the Boone's property here, they've been told that they need to leave by Christmas time.
May made the trip to the valley for her first time and says she wants the federal government to keep their promise of respecting relationships with First Nations by stopping Site C as it infringes upon their Treaty 8 territory.
The BC government wants to take the project past the point of no return. We're not there yet, and I'm very committed to making sure the new federal government, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, keeps their word that this government is fully committed to a respectful nation-to-nation relationship with First Nations.
Construction of the almost $9 billion project started last summer, and many voiced their objection to the hydroelectric dam, saying there are other methods to produce energy and it conflicts with human rights.
The process has failed to respect the constitutionally protected treaty rights of Indigenous peoples. That failure is discriminatory.
The battle continues to fight the dam, and protesters say it's crucial for people to write to Prime Minister Trudeau and insist that he does not sign off on federal permits that will continue the project.
Do not allow the fisheries permits to be signed. Do not allow the transportation permits to be signed. If that happens, this dam project stops, and that's what needs to happen. So Mr. Trudeau needs to receive a lot of letters.
The West Moberly First Nations will also be doing their part by heading back to court this fall.
We're hoping, because of the Enbridge decision that just come down, we should have some good footing now.
Carissa Wilson, CJDC TV News, Fort St. John.
We're still waiting for a decision on whether the Peace River Regional District will rezone a piece of land in Toms Lake from agricultural to heavy industrial. Last night's public consultation gave Encana another chance to present details on their proposal, the South Central Liquids Hub. Residents fired back, saying they live on rural land to enjoy the peace and quiet. There are also concerns over how the project would affect organic farming and beekeepers in the area, and many are concerned over chemicals like H2S.
I'm just a farmer, and I moved here for ALR. This land that they're putting this pollution on is agricultural land. You guys developed our bylaws. You guys, we all worked together for this. And now, just like that, we just change it.
Many Toms Lake residents keep saying they're not against natural gas activity, they just think there's a better place for it. There's a vast amount of Crown land in the area, but Encana says moving the project is not that easy.
We have a limited radius where this liquids hub can be located, and that was in a 4-kilometer radius, as we spoke to, right? If we try to move too far away with the facility, we no longer have the pressure in the system to get it to the facility, which would require us then to build an additional facility, so 2 instead of 1, to accomplish the same thing.
A final decision was expected on Thursday, but now the board has requested more information. The board says if they do rezone the land, they want Encana to commit to 1 year of air quality monitoring. Encana now has to wait until the next board meeting to show they can commit to the new requirements. Fort St. John residents looking to book their next flight will now have less options to choose from. New Leaf Travel Company has announced they are no longer providing flights through the energetic city. Less than a month ago, the low-cost travel company announced Fort St. John as one of their new destinations, but now the company has axed the city from its route itinerary, saying the route conflicts with the majority of their travelers' interests who fly between Edmonton and Abbotsford.
What we've seen was a massive pickup from both Edmonton and Abbotsford looking to get to those 2 points. And so it was a no-brainer for us. We just said, okay, we're going to make that journey for them as simple and easy and quick as possible, which is really serving our customers' needs.
There will be no stopover in Fort St. John to provide a direct non-stop flight for customers traveling between the two cities. New Leaf says their other flights are continuing as planned, and the company will soon be announcing additional destinations. As for taking off in Fort St. John anytime soon, New Leaf says it's a possibility the company hopes to revisit.
We started there for a reason, and we're going to continue to grow and expand, and our success is going to allow us to do a whole bunch more things. And so I can't give you any timelines, but our desire would be to get back in there in the future.
Most of Fort St. John customers who purchased flights have already been contacted. They were offered a refund or rebooking with another air service at New Leaf's expense. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in just a moment with the Peace Country's top stories. Stay with us.
Week in Review. We'll be right back. CJDC TV. Week in Review on CJDC. CJDC TV.
Fort Nelson for LNG has been a strong movement in the community, especially with the downturn in the economy. And now the community's First Nation is restating their support for industrial development on their territory. The Fort Nelson First Nation announced their support for LNG development in the region as long as there's proper discussion with government. CJDC's Carissa Wilson reports.
Now we can count on a First Nation from our area to back our fight.
The Fort Nelson First Nation is reaffirming their support for acquiring liquefied natural gas development in their territory.
We have always said, you are more than welcome to come in here and develop, but it has to be done in a sustainable manner. There has to be a balanced approach.
The First Nation Council issued a formal statement this week saying they are also feeling the impacts of the weak economy and value the jobs that would come with industrial development.
We've never been opposed to development. We just want sustainable, manageable, controllable development in our territory.
This is good news for the LNG movement, as advocates say this formal support will help unite Canadians in the region to tell the federal government they are in favor of oil and gas development.
This gives social license from the local First Nation group for LNG.
The council wants to have discussion with government about sustainable management of industrial development to ensure resources are established but with minimal environmental and cultural impacts to their territory.
We have to do that in a fair manner, but we also have to do it in a timely manner. Like oil and gas industry, they work on timelines just like any other industry, and so I think it's fair to say that certainly that consultation has to be there.
Chief Logan says the Fort Nelson First Nation has opposed a few development proposals before because the process was not done correctly, but if the government approaches them with the necessary information for LNG work and is open for discussion, then they're all ears.
We are asking this government of British Columbia to come to the table, to start working with us to find solutions going forward so that we are prepared when the market and the economy picks up.
Pym says having the support of the Fort Nelson First Nation is helpful, but it is difficult to say if their support will quicken the LNG movement.
Unfortunately, this doesn't make any difference to the Canadian piece, I don't think. It's still got to go through that finalization and the environmental assessment for the Petronas project, and we know that that's going to be announced sometime in September.
Carissa Wilson, CJDC TV News, Fort St. John.
Dawson Creek will soon see more retail space. On Monday, City Council approved a development permit for the Dawson Creek Mall.
You look at that mall in terms of the work that has been undertaken by the ownership group over the last 2 or 3 years particularly, and it's certainly been a significant significant addition and change to the community, and now welcome additional development with the original Joe's in that retail space, and now more development down there, so it's really strong.
The exterior of the mall will be renovated. Save-On Foods will be setting up shop sometime next year. Renovations will allow for 3 other new retail units inside the mall, and 1 additional building will go up in the area. Council says they're pleased about the opportunities the expansion will create.
You look at the entire property over the last 3 years, it's unrecognizable, which is good, because it was not a flagship location, and now it is.
No word yet on what other businesses will be using those new retail spaces. City staff say they've received great feedback so far on what residents want to see in Fort St. John in years to come. The city is currently working on updating their official community plan to outline this policy for the city's future. The city just completed the community feedback phase and are now on to drafting the bylaw. CJDC's Carissa Wilson reports.
Fort St. John residents were heard loud and clear on what they want to see in the city's future, which will be taken into consideration for the city's next official community plan.
We're very pleased to see the community come out and join us.
This week, city staff and Urban Systems presented a summary report to Council about the community feedback received over the last month on what the public wants to see happen in the city within the next 15+ years.
We had some cafes, 3 World Cafes. We had stakeholder sessions. We also had public community surveys, and people can also get information on their website.
After compiling all the feedback for the visionary policy document, city staff identified key themes from the public.
One of the highlights that came out of that engagement was people told us they want more green spaces, more trails, more active spaces.
The city says 4 overarching themes were noticed from the results, including quality of life, implementation of the OCP, balance of land use, and diversity in services.
Having options for housing, having clean, green streets, for example, and places to go in the evening, maybe for a cafe, coffee, and that sort of thing. So all of those things combined really help with improving our quality of life.
On Canada Day, the city asked the public what green initiatives they want to see in the future and received a variety of responses.
More composting. We heard make the streets less dirty, for example. We heard community gardens. So those are all, and use more green energy. So those are all the things that we're looking at.
The OCP is updated every 5 years, and now the city is on to phase 3, which is creating the first draft of the amended bylaw.
We have to look at some of that feedback and see what's our ability as a municipality to help. So we may be able to help affect some change by being that voice to support those services coming into our community.
The draft will be available for the public to view and comment on at a block party in September, and the city expects to have the final draft completed by the end of the year. Carissa Wilson, CJDC TV News, Fort St. John.
We're going to take one more quick break, but we'll be back in a moment with Week in Review. Stay with us.
Week in Review. We'll be right back. CJDC TV. Week in Review on CJDC. CJDC TV.
Northeast BC is known to have its own version of Jurassic Park, with various sites containing evidence of dinosaur existence from millions of years ago. Recently, a dinosaur trackway was unveiled near Hudson's Hope that contains hundreds of dinosaur footprints. CJDC's Carissa Wilson found out just how significant this historical finding is.
This is the single largest track surface in the Peace region.
To date, paleontologists have uncovered at least 800 dinosaur footprints near Williston Reservoir, and they say there's more to come.
What we're standing on is a 115 million year old dinosaur track surface, and we have about 600 square meters exposed, and it is covered with dinosaur footprints.
About 100 Peace Region residents were invited to the Dinosaur Trackways unveiling, which is the first of its kind that has been discovered since dinosaur tracks were found at the Peace River Canyon in the 1920s.
Now that this site is exposed, we get another chance to see these footprints that have not been seen since the dams went online.
The 6,000 square meter trackway located near Hudson's Hope was discovered by Barry Muro in 2005 when he and a co-worker were quadding in the area.
Just glanced over and saw an exposed slab here with some strange markings in it, moss and dirt, and I just stopped and looked at it for a minute and said those are dinosaur tracks.
Every now and then there's the real thing, and Barry was the real thing.
After receiving funding, paleontologists started excavating the site this year and say more dinosaur tracks were discovered here than at the Peace River Canyon, with approximately 8,000 tracks that will be uncovered and researched in years to come.
We take footprint measurements, trackway measurements, we do the 3D imaging, we do mapping, and then we look at documentation from other sites and see if what we can add to the story.
Paleontologists plan on excavating about 3,000 square meters of this land over the next 2 years. Then they'll look into how to preserve it and tourism options.
We're hoping to put a building over, like that will get support from the region and the province and from the federal government to actually, to do this sort of thing for preservation. Because if you don't have preservation, there's no point in anything else.
Buckley says this site is also an exciting chance to find the existence of other dinosaurs in the region that have not been proven before.
I'm getting hints of very, very small footprints, like from birds and really small meat-eating dinosaurs, so I'm hoping I'll be able to see a lot more details from those.
Muro continues to keep his eyes open while exploring the area, as you never know what you can stumble upon.
That's something I'm always keen, looking for fossils, looking for tracks.
Carissa Wilson, CJDC TV News, Hudson's Hope.
Walking around downtown Dawson Creek to see all of the cars on display during the Mile Zero Cruisers Summer Cruise took a long time this year, as there were 421 parked around the Mile Zero city. CJDC's Derek Lightfoot has more on one of the biggest and best events the club held in recent memory.
Yes, I did a lot of walking today, and yes, there was a lot more cars than last year. I heard there was some coming from far away as Lethbridge, Alberta. Down on the island, there's Powell River cars. It's getting larger and larger every year.
While the festivities start on Friday, with Summer Cruise participants partaking in a number of different events, the fan favorite Show and Shine brings many residents to the downtown core on Sunday to look at all of the unique vehicles. The show is open to the public starting at 8 in the morning, although the work starts well before then. Parking 421 cars is no easy task. While there were a few bumps in the road, the years of experience the cruisers have helped them get everything set up without a hitch.
There's always a few challenges here and there. There's always some little glitches, but we had a good crew. They all manned it well, and we got through it well.
This year's top 10 featured a ton of variety, including a 1952 Ford F1 and a 1938 red Chevy 5-window coupe, and of course the top bike. Massey had a different personal favorite out of the group, though.
I gotta admit, I did have a favorite out of that. The car's been here 5 years ago. I'm an old Mopar fan myself. Years ago I had a lot of Mopar. The purple 1970 GTX. That's my favorite.
With another successful summer cruise now in the books, the cruisers have a couple of events planned for the rest of the summer before the cars go into the garages.
We got a few little barbecues here and there, and a few odd little things that we're going to do. We had to try to raise some more money. We're actually taking a car that we built up to Rotary Manor here shortly. We're going to present that car to them.
Derek Lightfoot, CJDC TV Sports, Dawson Creek.
Hundreds of competitors are in Wyoming for the National High School Rodeo Finals, with 24 representatives from our great province heading down south. But what's remarkable and not all that surprising is that half of those 24 are from northern BC. CJDC's Derek Lightfoot reports.
Many of the competitors heading down to Gillette, Wyoming did attend the National High School Rodeo Finals last year as well, including Farmington Dawson Creek girl Kate White. Except for the first time, she'll be heading to the finals as a senior.
Last year I went and I had an awesome time. I got like 34th in polls, and out of almost 200 girls. So it was really, really fun, and it was just an amazing experience.
She'll be joined by 11 others from northern BC, many of whom are from in and around Dawson Creek, places like Montney, Charlie Lake, Chetwynd, Fort St. John, and more. They'll all be looking to do their best, hopefully take home a medal or two. But the week-long event is always just a fun time for the young adults as well.
There's so many different people there, and there's people from all the way from Hawaii, there's people from, Australia, and there's like all over the place. It's just so cool to meet so many new people.
Most of the Peace competitors are heading down to Wyoming today or Thursday as the finals start on Sunday, and it's about a 2-day drive, which almost seems like nothing to those who went last year. The finals were in Des Moines, Iowa, nearly 3,000 kilometers away from the Mile Zero city.
Now that I went on that 5-day trip, we go to Williams Lake for rodeo, it's like, oh, that was just a really short trip, right? And it's better for anyone because you learn patience, and you have to travel in small quarters with your family, and it just brings you closer together.
But traveling those long distances and having to compete in unfamiliar territory is good practice for the young cowboys and cowgirls of the future, as is just rubbing elbows with the best of the best. There are hundreds of competitors going to the finals from all over the world, with ample opportunity to watch others and pick up a thing or two.
You can go watch events every day and you'll be like, okay, well, this is what I'm up against. I really gotta focus on this, and it makes you a little bit more nervous, but you just gotta take a deep breath, and it makes you a lot better. I found I've improved so much more.
Improving year to year is important for many of the athletes. Competing is fun, but most would like to make it pro someday, something not that far-fetched, as many alumni of BC High School Rodeo are competing professionally now.
I'm definitely planning on going pro. I'm actually pushing myself more and more towards it. I'm watching more of their barrel runs, and I'm studying how they do it, and I'm listening to a bunch of inspirational stuff, and it's just really helping me along the way.
Derek Lightfoot, CJDC TV Sports, Dawson Creek.
That's it for our show. We'll be back next time with another edition of Week in Review. Until then, please join us weeknights at 6 for CJDC TV News. Take care.
CJDC TV.